Sure. How you doing today?
Good. I would have brought copies of my resume.
We have them. You emailed it, right?
Yeah, I
Yep.
did. I
Yeah.
came from, I got this call this morning, so
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was in family court at the time.
Got it.
Yeah.
That is not a problem at all.
Yep, you're here, you're highlighted, and we're ready to go.
Well, thank you for the time and the consideration and the review of my resume.
Well, thank you for putting yourself forward and applying for this position.
Oh, thank you, yes.
We'll give you a minute to introduce yourself and kind of an opening statement if you would like.
Okay, I'm Attorney Tara Midlick. I originally come from the East Aurora area. I was born and raised here. I left when I went to college. I actually studied engineering, undergrad and master's degree. I worked in technical sales. And then I returned when I started a family, who everyone wants to live in East Aurora with a family. So I've been living here ever since. I went to law school at University of Buffalo. I've been practicing, I am a private law practice since I graduated in 2005. I was admitted February 2006. I have had a private practice. I additionally do corporate legal work for Prime Systems in Illinois. I do a significant amount of my practice is through the Erie County Assigned Counsel Program. I, of course, have practiced in family court for approximately 15 years. Custody matters for the most part, custody, visitation, family offenses, some neglect, child support, your standard family court. I've done divorce proceedings, matrimonial proceedings. As a corporate attorney, I've dealt with contracts for the most part, employee issues, some issues associated with that. And I'm not sure what additional information you would like regarding my background as far as my work side.
I think that's pretty much covers it.
We'll ask you,
questions.
questions.
We have a few of the things, obviously, that we want to ask you, but I just want to mention one thing. You spent a lot of time in family court.
I have spent a lot of time in family court.
I tip my hat to you.
Yes, it is a difficult process. It's very emotional. Everyone's very concerned about their family. Practicing, I did start off doing more criminal work. Of course, being a criminal defense attorney, I think your clients are much more satisfied with your work based on the fact that you're keeping them out of jail, hopefully. You're assisting them with the legal troubles. But when you come into a family court practice, then of course there is emotional issues that come into play that are very difficult to, you have to be very respectful of everybody and their feelings and their emotions because it's very highly emotional. I have practiced as attorney of the day both in town of Aurora court and in town of Hamburg court. I've been doing Fridays in town of Hamburg, and I do, of course, ADA nights. I will be leaving. I thank you for having me come in at 4:30 because I'm leaving here and going to town of Aurora court. That is essentially doing arraignments for clients that do not have attorneys. So I've been doing that for, prior to COVID. We'll go back to the pre-COVID days. So probably about 7, 8 years. I think it's on my resume, how long it's been. It's been quite a bit of time. And so I try to help the indigent through my work with the Assigned Counsel Program.
So, and this is one of my questions, but you've raised my curiosity. Does an offense have to rise to a certain level before the attorney of the day services are available to them?
Typically, they're misdemeanors or felonies. I have on many times represented someone with violations. I just had a case in Hamburg a week ago where a client had some mental capacity issues. So Carl Morgan asked me to represent her. Based on the length of the calendar, typically we're doing the misdemeanors, the felonies, not doing the violations. The defendants will speak with the town prosecutors, work out some sort of, negotiation or plea deal with that.
Sure, and my interest is to speak too, and it's also involved in one of the questions I have. So flipping that on its side, as judge, how would you handle cases involving things like domestic violence, mental illness, juveniles? Is there a unique way to handle those, different than, your standard run-of-the-mill traffic stop?
Well, I think every case has its own.
That's how I would.
Yeah. Certainly, I would be sympathetic or at least aware of the mental issues and capacities of people. Through my experience, even as attorney of the day and with family court, we can provide social workers through the assigned counsel program for our clients. It's up to us as attorneys to reach out to them. I work quite a bit with the Rural Outreach Center here in East Aurora. I know Kelly Shanahan does a lot of work through there that I often meet with on trying to get resources. I have quite a few clients with mental health issues that we're dealing with. Certainly in family court, I think that's a little bit more standard on dealing with that regarding doing evaluations at Spectrum or Best Self or Horizons for mental health or substance abuse. As a defense attorney, I've used those tools to assist my clients with criminal issues because a lot of that falls over to that. Certainly people that are stealing things or, committing petty larcenies or other crimes have certain disabilities or struggles. And I do recognize the fact that people do have those struggles. And committing some resources or trying to have them connect with these resources that we have in the community, I think assists them with not only getting through whatever criminal issues they may have, but then also long-term, actually them being a productive member of society, dealing with getting some mental health or dealing with substance abuse and actually turning around and getting a job and, doing those sorts of, committing those resources for the clients, I think ends up that they are actually much more productive in society and better members.
You're also employed by Prime UV Systems, is that
Correct.
correct? On your resume there?
Correct.
You have a lot going on.
I do. I did technical sales for, a decade and a half prior to becoming an attorney. So,
I'm sure you're a little bit aware of the time required for this position.
I am a bit aware of it. I'm not as aware. I do know that, in discussing this, like with Tony DeFilippo, that he was retiring based on the fact of resources and time in his private practice. I do know, of course, the Wednesday nights and coming in for arraignments and the trials.
And I know that Judge Markello often stops over during the day to sign papers or go through documents or, to tell you the honest guy's truth, I'm not sure what he does in that capacity, but it's a fair amount of time that needs it. And you're comfortable with putting that on top of everything else on your plate?
Yes, well, as a judge, I would then not be, as attorney of the day, I would be sacrificing those positions in Hamburg and town of Aurora, providing more time for my utilization of any sort of town judgeship.
Do you intend to seek the judgeship in an elected capacity for a full term?
I would expect so if I was elected interim or if I was provided that position.
Have you taken any steps towards, these are two entirely different things. The board's going to make a decision whether or not to appoint somebody, and then if so, who to appoint. The rest of the process in terms of becoming a judge for the next 4 years is completely out of our hands. Have you
It
taken any
is, it's an election.
Yeah,
I
have you
am
taken
aware.
any steps towards that direction, or have any plan, or?
I've not taken any steps besides some planning, some thoughts. That's where I've been with this. To be quite honest and blunt, this was something when Tony said he was retiring, that then I decided
It
to.
was unexpected, for sure.
It was unexpected.
For all of us.
Yes.
So these are relatively new thoughts on my behalf, to be a matter of fact with that.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. Why a judge? Why now? Is that part of the plan long-term, or was
It's been,
sort of the
well,
moment?
it's been, it's a thought of a plan. It is something I've considered and thought of, and based on the timing, this is a very good time in my field and what my career for that position.
Okay. Do you know Mary Sliz? Supreme Court?
I don't know her personally, no.
Okay. Just curious.
I mean,
Yeah, she handles a lot of family issues.
she does.
Yeah. Yeah.
We live in a small town, as you know. Go ahead, Ray.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so like Chuck was saying, I mean, we're a similar thought. We live in a small town. Everybody doesn't know everybody, but everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows everybody.
Yes.
Okay. So is there any trepidation on your part about, judging people that live in the community, like your, child soccer coach or something comes before you? Is that uncomfortable? If it is, how will you deal with it? If it isn't, why isn't it?
Well, again, anyone that I would, well, of course, I would have to go to judge school and do all of the ethically required and other steps for this position. But I wanted to say that I don't see an issue with that. If I was very close with someone, obviously, I would have to recuse myself. I'm rather a busy person, so I'm not as social. I mean, I know people. I'm very in passing. As far as I've been working, I've been a single mother. I've been, I don't mean to bring in my personal life. I hope that doesn't offend anyone. But I did get divorced when my son was young. I've been a single mother. I did the transportation to school and back, all the sporting events. I did, everything that was required as a single parent. One of the reasons I did a private practice. He's now graduated from Middlebury College. So, again, I have time now to utilize my resources for whatever endeavors that I see best fit my career path. And I would see that as town justice could be that next step for me. I think I would be very fair as far as the community. I don't think that I would be biased in any way because I know someone in passing or have seen someone. And certainly I would ethically follow all requirements of if I was close to someone recusing myself of that matter.
Good, thanks.
Oh, thank you. I do have another question. So in speaking to folks in the legal profession, which I do not fall into that category, I know that something that's taken center stage recently are red flag laws concerning gun confiscation for mental health crises and things of that nature. Do you have any experience with that? Is that something you've come across as part of your daily? Is only during, in orders of protection, that guns have to be removed. Otherwise, besides that, I haven't really personally gotten involved with that. Gotcha. But you've have experience where you've been in cases where there's been orders of protection?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
But, in what capacity have you been in those positions?
As attorney of the day.
Okay.
Arraigning someone that has an order of protection, even if it's a temporary order of protection. They have to admit if they have to have guns, they have to turn them in. Certainly in family court, we have the same issues.
All right, thank you.
What do you see as the biggest challenge in front of you if you were appointed to this position?
Well, I think it will be a learning curve. It is a new position. I've not been previously a judge. I will have to write decisions. There will be a lot of time allocated to the position. It will be challenging, but I'm willing to accept that challenge and overcome it. And I think I would do quite well with that. Additionally, I think it would be time in the town of Aurora to have a first female judge in 2025.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
That's
For sure.
I had not thought of that.
So going along those lines, do you have a particular philosophy that may, for the position that may be different than others, whether it's gender or whatever else, that might lend itself positively to the position?
I just to be fair, to consider everyone's position,
Sure.
the unique circumstances,
Sure.
mitigating circumstances, mental health capacity, substance abuse capacity, just to really look at each situation and case as a unique situation. Of course, abiding by the law.
That's the key.
If you were appointed, would you be in a position to start
Immediately.
on June 1st?
Yes, I would.
You don't have that vacation to the Bahamas planned in the 1st of August or anything like that?
I do not, well, I am going away, but for the weekend at the beginning of August for my nephew's 17th birthday.
I wasn't bragging.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying is, because some people are booked up.
I am
They're
not.
very busy. Some people
I-
are booked up until after school starts.
Yes, one thing about being busy is you don't have the time to go away as much.
They do say if you need work done, give it to a busy person.
Exactly.
I've heard that said many times.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, am I okay? Okay. Are there any particular judges that you've worked with that you admire, that you would consider role models, that you'd want to emulate should you become a judge?
Well, I've worked, of course, in town of Aurora. I feel everyone's been fair. Honorary Markello, Judge DeFilippo. I've been working with town of Hamburg. I mean, Judge Gorman has been there since I started practicing in 2006. Of course, we have Carl Morgan that's over there. It's interesting, two very different perspectives on the bench. You have Judge Morgan you go in front of, and he will scare you, and then you have Judge Gorman, and you look at him, and he's like Santa, and you think, oh, everything's going to go great, and then, okay, we're sentencing you to 6 months incarceration. I think every judge has a different feel, if I may say that. I don't know another, it really is.
And who do you see yourself following? Who do you see yourself emulating the most?
I think I'll be my own judge. And then I was going to go into family court justices.
Sure, please do.
Such as, Mary Carney, Deanne Trippi that I'm in front of, that are all very fair and but all have a different personality and a different method of doing, there's typical methods of doing things, but I think out of all of them, they all approach from a very fair perspective, but they all have a unique flair.
Well, thank you.
Anything else?
Well, of course, we have your resume, and you have pretty broad spectrum of experience.
I am.
Right? Engineering, for one, how that leads to law, I'm not really sure. But given that, all right, and this particular position, what makes you unique and a strong candidate? So not comparing yourself to anybody else, but just you, who you are. What makes you unique and strong for that position?
Well, I think due to my diverse background, I have different perspectives. I can see things from different I'm not just a lawyer. I've been an engineer, I've been in sales, I've been in marketing, I've been an attorney. I think that you tend to have a broader perspective when you're approaching any sort of issue, or if you're trying to develop a solution.
Okay, great. Just one last question.
Sure,
I see on your resume that you do a lot of work pro bono.
I do.
I was wondering if we could get that deal?
That would be my question.
I think that's more of a quid pro quo.
I do too much work pro bono.
Well, we want to thank you for
Yeah,
coming in
absolutely.
and interviewing with us because it was great. You did a fine job, and
Well, thank you for the opportunity, thank you for your consideration, and thank you for your time.
we will be making our decisions very soon, and I'll let you know.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
very much.
you.
Have a lovely day.
Yeah, thanks
Yes,
for
you
offering to
too.
be more busy.
Sure.
Thanks,
Have a
Charlie.
great day.
Yeah, you too.
You too.
Very
Take
nice
care.
to meet you.
You too.
Okay.
I don't know how you'd watch this if you wanted to. I guess we're just recording it. I was just going to make sure it was recording.
Gotcha.
I will go this way. Are you guys ready? And I'll just have,
I'm ready.
I'll bring them around
Very
the front.
good.
Yep.
Just gonna double check our, yep, it says we're recording, so.
Excellent.
Put you in the game position seat
I
here.
see that,
Yeah.
the hot seat.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's not wired or anything.
Yeah, is there a Bible I need to take it up?
Ready when you are, Chuck.
Well, thank you for taking the time.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Sure, sure. And we'll just open this with you introducing yourself, if you would, and maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, and
All right.
we'll go from there.
Yeah, my name is Mike Deal. I live on Walnut Street here in the village. I actually ran for this position, or Tony's position, back in 2015. Yeah, I made it through the primaries and was soundly defeated by Tony, which shouldn't have been a surprise to me, but I had only been living here for a few years, and I didn't have a lot of roots in the area. But I've been a practicing attorney for about 30 years, counting my 2 years of an internship in law school. Started as a prosecutor in Ohio. I've prosecuted everything from speeding tickets through murder trials. When I moved to Western New York, I was married at the time to another attorney, actually, who was from Elma. So we moved kind of close to this area. And I became a defense attorney. I've been a defense attorney since 2001. I'm currently legal director of the Criminal Defense Unit at the Legal Aid Bureau, where I help the chief of that unit manage an ever-growing roster of staff attorneys and support staff. You may have seen recently we're going to expand out of the city of Buffalo into Cheektowaga Town Court. We're also taking over felony representation in the city limits for violent crimes, which is different than what we'd been doing prior to this expansion. So I have experience managing groups of people and staff, and I know from both sides, what justice should look like. I've been on both sides. I've also done a job very similar to this position. I was appointed a mayor's court magistrate when I was in Ohio, and I did that.
Mayor's court magistrate?
Yeah, mayor's court magistrate, which, the system's slightly different than here in New York. It's a judicial appointment. or at least it was considered that at that time. But it was basically a traffic court, a lot of high-volume traffic. I did that for about a year. That's very similar to what this job does, minus some of the civil aspects. Landlord, tenant, and small claims. I know town courts do that.
Yeah.
I've done those as an attorney over the years, not much, but some, a handful of small claims and landlord, tenant together. There was a period of time I worked for a law firm for, 13 years, where I did, majority of that was criminal defense, but I also had some civil experience here and there.
You
yeah.
bringing this up, Michael, are you self-employed? Or do you, because it really wasn't too clear in your resume, are you the owner of your own law firm, or do you work for?
I work for the Legal Aid Bureau. I'm the legal director of the Criminal Defense Unit.
Okay.
I've worked with legal aid since about 2017. I was hired there as a managing attorney in their appellate unit. I then took a hiatus to finish a large, long federal trial, criminal trial, in 2018 that took several months. It was the Kingsman motorcycle trial. I was one of the, Barry Covert, I don't know if you guys know Barry, he lives in the town. He and I were assigned to one of the defendants in that case. But after that trial ended, I came back to legal aid. I had taken like I said, a brief hiatus from there. And I was in the criminal defense unit from then on. And I'm one of the upper supervisors of that unit. So I'm salaried by them.
Obviously, what we're considering is whether or not to appoint somebody for the remainder of the year. That's all that's within our power. And if we decide to appoint somebody, then who? Do you intend to, I know you've run for this position before, do you intend to seek a 4-year term?
Honestly, I would see how that goes. I had no intention really of running.
We were all caught by
For
surprise.
judge again. When I found out that Tony, Judge DiFilippo, was stepping down, my only thought was, I would certainly like to serve the community in the interim, for sure. I think I would wait and see, I guess, if I were appointed. I learned a lot in that campaign. I learned a lot about the people here and the community itself. You guys know, campaigning is an arduous task, actually. But if you don't have takeaways from it, then that there was no point in doing it. And I certainly don't regret having run at all. But I'm not so sure that I necessarily would again, in all honesty. I'd like to see how the tenure would go, actually. But I really do want to serve the community, and I think I'm in a better kind of position to do that now.
So is that the reason why you're applying for this position is, well, obviously, we have your resume. I saw that you were a magistrate early on in your career and you ran for office. So
Yes.
Are you looking at this as an opportunity to really see it from the inside? Is that potentially it? Or am I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Right. I'm looking at it as an opportunity to serve the community. I kind of know what it's like to do it. The job in Ohio was similar, not the same by any stretch, but similar. And I have spent enough time in justice courts over my career to know how they run. I'm not a political animal, and I learned that firsthand in 2015. I have reservations as to whether or not judges should be elected in the first place, or if elected, the way it's done, especially here in New York. I think the local town justice system is probably better than being endorsed by the parties, because certainly the higher seats, it's a weird system, the way they get cross-endorsed, where there's not a real competition. But I'm not looking at this as a stepping stone or opportunity to cement myself in the local political scene by any stretch.
Gotcha. Okay. Chuck?
Anything else?
Just question, you're involved in the community, obviously. Are there any trepidation on your part about, serving as a town justice and, having your, daughter's soccer coach come before you or anything like that? Or how do you feel about that relationship?
Well, I've a daughter, two stepdaughters. The soccer is over.
Okay.
The one stepdaughter is playing at Mercyhurst, and if her coach comes to me, it's going to be for some good news, I hope. No, I don't have trepidation about that at all.
Okay.
About interactions in the community because of the position of being a judge.
Sure.
No, I don't have any trepidation about that at all.
Okay. So how would you handle that?
Well, it depends on the interaction, right? But overall, any type of interaction between a lawyer and a judge and a member of the community, or a person who comes into their representational status or under their, jurisdiction as a judge, it should be handled in a professional and fair and neutral manner, even as an attorney. Unless you're hired or are otherwise representing that person's interest, which is a different issue. Let's say you finished their representation, you need to always be professional with that person. And as a judge, if I were to run into, a member of the community that wants to discuss anything that I've ruled upon, I would treat that person fairly. I would hear them out, but I would be fair and neutral. I would treat them with the respect they deserve, because everyone deserves that.
It all kind of comes into politics, and like you say, you didn't particularly care for the political, because we, as the board, make decisions that aren't always the most popular.
Of course they
And you see these people out in the streets and tops and so on, and there's times when it gets a little bit uncomfortable, but you make the decision for the best, for the best of all of us.
Absolutely. Everyone
It does have
deserves
its
respect.
moments, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Well, everyone deserves respect, even when they disagree with you. And you can treat that person professionally, even if that's not their approach.
So, in speaking with Judge Markello, I know that our town prosecutor spent a lot of time on, I'm calling them red flag laws. I don't know if that's accurate. More than maybe before, where guns are seized from individuals having mental health crises or involved in domestic violence. Do you have any? I think this has become a bigger share of the work of the Justice Court than maybe it has been in the past. Do you have any experience with that? Is that something you've dealt with?
It is not. The ERPO laws
Yep, that's exactly what
are,
it was. I couldn't remember the
yeah,
word for it.
the ERPO laws came into being since my working at Legal Aid. Our office does not handle those. So I don't have any experience with them. I didn't realize they were being entertained by local town justices either. So in that regard, I don't have any experience at all with that.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. That was a word I couldn't remember. Is that ERPO?
ERPO.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, working for legal aid, you probably are involved in this in a fair number of cases. How do you think a judge should handle, especially at the local level, when it comes to cases involving domestic violence, mental health issues, juvenile issues? I mean, how do you see that being different than, a traffic stop or something like that?
Sure. I think it's extremely different. Since I've been at Legal Aid, we've started what we call a holistic representation program. We've hired social workers and client advocates to assist our staff attorneys in representing our clients. And the purpose of them isn't to do what we might think social workers do, right? Give them advice on how to do things. But it's to guide them in the direction of resources that might be available to help them. And those resources range from people that are housing insecure, trying to get them help to get housing, all the way up through help with addictions and things of that nature. The court, Buffalo City Court especially, provides a lot of that in the domestic violence court and in the various treatment courts. But we also kind of fill in whatever gaps there might be, or we try to fill in whatever gaps there might be. To answer your question more specifically, domestic violence cases are rife with persons that are suffering from addictions, mental illnesses, and other things that go along with whatever causes poverty, a wide range of poverty causing issues. That doesn't mean that only poor people are in those courts, but what it means is that the courts are designed to address some of those problems.
Sure.
And our office has endeavored to help fill in those blanks. Those types of offenses tend to be committed, for lack of a better term, because I got to take off my criminal defense approach for a second. But those types of offenses tend to be committed by people who are suffering from those issues more than not. Doesn't mean that there aren't people that are just perhaps controlling or manipulative on their own. But usually that type of offense is committed because someone has one of those types of issues going on in their lives. And that should be taken into account.
Absolutely. All right, thanks.
Good?
Okay.
I'm good.
All right.
I'm good.
Thank you, Michael. We
Thank you.
appreciate you coming in.
Okay.
And we'll make a decision here very soon, and I'll let you know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know, I didn't see the evidence of Jim, I'll see you back.
Okay. You might be out in the hall.
Last of the order.
If he's not. I don't think we should go on. You?
Possibly.
You get it.
I think this is Greenville?
Larry Graneyville?
Hello, Jim.
Hi, how are we today?
Fantastic.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Granville.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
We started out with the rest of them by you telling us just a little bit about yourself. I know we know you, but
Right.
maybe just give you a few minutes, kind of like an opening statement, if you will. And
Yeah, the opening statement, I'll certainly a little bit about myself. My mom was born in North Buffalo. My dad was born in South Buffalo. They met in Crystal Beach. So it wasn't quite the, West Side Story scenario. But my family came to the U.S. in the mid-1800s. My great-grandfather entered the Army and served at Fort Niagara, which I think is pretty cool. Got married to a local girl in Lewiston, and our family's been here either as laborers, bartenders, and now the first lawyer of the family. My mom's family is a pretty interesting story. Her family started out in Sheldon, New York, where they were farmers for a couple of years, or a couple generations. Half the family moved to Lancaster, the name Balthazar, opened up a hotel there, and there was actually a hotel Balthazar here in East Aurora, but I haven't found if that's related.
what's your mom's maiden name?
Balthazar. Yeah. But the Globe used to be called the Hotel Balthazar, I think. But
Really?
that was her uncle, the one that opened up the hotel in Lancaster. We went to Black Rock And my great-grandmother was the first committee woman ever elected in Black Rock. So we have that really kind of fun history. Like I said, I the only attorney in my family. We probably, out of my grandmother's 26 grandkids and 40 great-grandchildren, all of us but 10 are still in the area. So I'm very connected to this area. East Aurora really is, my cousins, the Laffertys, moved out here, so we visited the distant lands of East Aurora when we were kids over on Mill Road, and my wife, as you know, is an Ungst, so she was out here every summer with her cousins. In law school, I went to school in Michigan, and I was able to practice law as a third year under the direction and supervision of an attorney. I actually tried cases while I was still a third-year law student. When I came back to Buffalo and took the bar exam, I worked in a small office where I tried some cases, went to the DA's office, and by coincidence, I was actually assigned to the Village of East Aurora Court and the Town of Aurora Court for a period of time until I left to join a private practice. As far as the Justice Court experience, which is what this position is for town justice, I have literally been to every Justice Court in Erie County, every Justice Court in Niagara County, and I'm going to say about 90 to 95% of the Justice Courts in the 8 counties of Western New York.
Was that as a defendant?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. Not convicted.
Very impressive.
The question is arrested, right? Or convicted. So, yeah, so what I think that brings to the table for me is that I've had an opportunity to take a look at the way judges who are attorneys, judges who are not attorneys, throughout the counties have conducted themselves. And I've always been, that's the way I've learned more, or equally so, but to a certain extent more in this area of watching other people and kind of taking away what I think are some of their better qualities, the way they move cases, the way they talk with people, the way they deal with people, et cetera. So in that regard, I think I mean, obviously I'm part of the Democratic committee here in town. I think as a town board, though, being on that has been really nice because I think we all get along decently. And I say that because regardless of party, I think it's, that's kind of an important quality. You kind of throw that off to the side, or at least take that hat off if you're going to be judged. So I kind of want to assure.
That's a good point, Jim.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do, for the
So.
most part, get along just fine.
Yeah. So the rest of it, I for a part-time, I was actually in-house counsel for a Fortune 500 company. I traveled throughout New York State. I tried cases for them, but 90% of what I did was sending emails to people telling them what I had done, and I don't like that. I like, I like the activity. So that was quite some time ago. I opened up my own practice. I had an office in Cheektowaga. I had an office in Clarence, and I had space at the Larkin Building where I was of counsel. And that was my niche practice. I then became of counsel to, over the years, I'm going to say at least a dozen different law firms from downstate, from Hudson Valley area, New York City, Long Island, attorneys that just didn't want to take the expense and the time of coming to town to try a case, or to take a plea, or to do things along those lines. But I also did the same for attorneys in Buffalo. There's an attorney who's still practicing right now that's 90 years old, and I did work for him for about 25 years, going to court for him, things like that. I'm now a law clerk in the state Supreme Court. We have not just criminal, but we have commercial. We have I'll call it regular civil, the slip and falls and the car accidents, things like that. So we have everything you can imagine, including some of the things that Peter Sorgi was talking about yesterday. So that's kind of my professional history. As you know, I'm married. I have 3 kids, one in Seattle, one in Albany, and one in Depew.
So you said you learned a lot along the way in travels, all right?
Yeah.
Appearing in whatever capacity in various courts throughout Western New York. But have you formed a specific judicial philosophy, and has that helped you in making a decision you'd like to be a judge?
Yeah, that's, I'm going to say yes. I think that could be a loaded question, but I think the answer is yes. I've also done a large amount of mediation before I became a law clerk, but I obviously do mediation almost every single day now. What I like about people and what I like about the judges that I was in front of was their temperament. And the temperament of what I thought was a decent judge wasn't you were giving away the store, like not guilty, $5 fine, do things like that. But the judge that listened to everybody, the judge that treated people fairly, whether they had, baggy pants and sandals on, or if they were wearing a three-piece suit, or if they were, regardless of their status in life, regardless even of the crime that they were charged with, to treat people with decency. There's a handful of people that don't want to be, doesn't seem like they want to be treated decently. They'll lash out at you and lash out at you. And I think that's where you have to have also the same demeanor, which is, which is to be level, but be in charge. So that's what I've taken from the other judges. That's something I appreciated as an attorney.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that I just value when I'm in court with other judges. Yeah.
Thanks.
Do you see any issues, Jim? Because it seems you have maybe I'm all wrong here, a fairly rigid schedule. Do you see any issues with if you were to take this position as judge with any scheduling conflicts?
I'm going to say I don't think so. My schedule is roughly 9 to 5. I stay later because I feel I need to stay later. I think if you ask any attorney, the job's never done. Like, you could work 24 hours a day and still feel like it's not done. I am generally 9 to 5. What keeps me busier is, being on the Democratic committee. I would have to resign from that.
Take care of that.
Well, take care of that. I'm on the West Falls. I'm the president of the West Falls. I don't think I would have to resign from the board, but I think it probably would be a good idea for me to resign as the chair. But I still want to be involved in that. The Justice Court primarily is, I'm going to say 6 o'clock till close on Wednesday, every Wednesday night. But you get called in for arraignments at 2 o'clock in the morning. You get called in at 3.
Sure.
That's the part I was referring to
yeah.
mostly, is that oddball. It might be 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right, it might be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that is where I would likely have to have a great relationship with Justice Markello, and I'd have to have an equally great relationship, I think, in that regard, with Pat Welch. Because my opinion, my impression is the arraignments, I want to say it the right way. I'm not saying the arraignments can just wait, but an arraignment at 2 o'clock, maybe a situation where they can hold on to the person legally for another hour while I leave my court and go. I don't see it as I see it as a challenge, but I don't see it as a problem. I think if I had to be in Aurora at 2 o'clock for an arraignment, I would talk to my judge, and if I had to adjourn something, I would. If he had to take it, he would. So I think that's a challenge that I can overcome without too much difficulty.
Does he know that you're sitting here today?
He is. Yeah, he's very excited about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm going to ask a question I know the answer to, but I've asked everybody. And as you know, we're recording all this for posterity, so I don't want to not ask somebody just because I know the answer. Do you intend to seek the judgeship for a full 4-year term?
I do.
And have you taken any steps towards that in figuring out how the mechanism by which at this date, I know, and I will go on the record as saying Tony did nobody any favors with his timing, but the mechanism which at this date that becomes a possibility?
The simple answer is yes, I have.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So, I don't want to get into...
No, not
if you
the
want me to get
politics
into
of
details,
it.
I will.
No. That's good
Okay.
enough of an answer. I asked everybody that, so I'm asking you.
So I just want to follow up. There is a judicial hotline, inquiry line, where it is staffed by judges and attorneys. Judges are allowed to call it. Persons who are seeking judgeship are allowed to contact them for opinions.
Okay.
There are a number of opinions that I have sought from them in the past 2-3 weeks. So that is always there for all the judges in New York State, from Justice Court to Supreme, but it's also for persons who are a candidate. In their mind, a candidate is someone who says, hey, I think I want to run.
Gotcha.
So I've been able to take advantage of that.
Gotcha. Perfect. And since that wasn't a question, that was a question I already knew the answer to, I'm going to take a liberty and ask my second question as well. Do you have any experience, so talking with Justice Markello, I understand that recently the ERPO laws have become a much bigger factor.
Right.
Taking up more of the time of the court and taking up more time of the prosecutor. Do you have any familiarity with these? Is this something you've worked with?
Yeah, so the ERPOs are figured out, decided in the Supreme Court.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The
So-
laws themselves or the application of the laws?
Application of the laws.
Okay, so it's
Well, I
not-
mean, the application of law could be anywhere.
Yeah.
In the town, but so Pat Welch investigates and they find that it's someone in high school or middle school or an adult that's made a threat, and maybe a threat against themselves. They'll fill out the ERPO paperwork and they will send it to, it will be assigned by the chief clerk to a Supreme Court judge.
Okay, so I guess I'm confused, and that's not on you. Judge Markello seemed to indicate it's taking up a lot of time somehow from the town prosecutor, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I need to read.
I wonder if he's talking about orders of protection maybe, but the ERPO itself has to go through Supreme Court.
Okay.
And there's a temporary ERPO that's given out that where someone's weapons may be taken away, but they're entitled to a hearing within a week. We have the hearing within a week. The judge makes a decision. No, this is not, we're not going to do a permanent order, or we are going to do a permanent order.
Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
basically it.
That could very well be
Yeah.
my misunderstanding, but I thought that's. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah. So, and we see those all the time in our court.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, you're heavily invested in your community, Westfall Center for the Arts, et cetera. Do you have any trepidation about being a judge in the community and ruling on cases involving people, you may not know, but they know people who know people? Is there any trepidation there? If there isn't, explain to me how you handle that.
Yeah, is there trepidation? I'm going to say, no, I don't think so. But of course, that's a concern. I'm looking around. Everybody's coached here, and it was a shock to me when the kids that I coached in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I saw them up at a tavern, and they were 21. So you get that sort of shocking thing. Claire was in the course for 15 years. She always, like almost, I'm going to say once a month, let's say, came upon kids that we knew from Immaculate, parents that we knew from Immaculate, neighbors that we knew, Claire, she went bent over backwards to be nice to the person, without, it never put a note in there, by the way, this is my friend, because that wasn't proper. But, treat them decently. Yeah, so the trepidation is you hate to see somebody that you know there. But things do happen. The majority of them, I'm going to say, are like offenses, like traffic tickets. It's like the kids get the shoplifting, the adults get the DWIs until they reach a certain age. But let's go the other way. There is domestic violence There are crimes.
Right.
There are serious crimes that are committed here. I think you just have to just be a judge. You always treat people, I always treat people with deference. But let's say one of the kids that I coached comes up and has a speeding ticket. And everyone gets fined, whatever it seems that way. I think the idea is not to just fine everybody the same thing, but to have a conversation with them in those settings where you are leading the conversation, but you have the conversation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I think having known the person, you can say, hey, what are you doing in your life? I know you, I know this, I know that. Now, let's say the same kid comes in, it's a shoplifting. You might know him well enough where you can have that conversation and fashion a sentence that's going to benefit him, benefit the community, benefit that. I think that's helpful to a certain extent, especially if they come there unrepresented. If they come represented, then the attorneys will help them out. So, yeah, I mean, you don't want to see it. It's, you'd hate to look up and, see someone that you know really well, but I think you just have to kind of put your judge pants on and deal with it.
My first speeding ticket, I appeared before my driver ed teacher. He said, I don't think I taught you enough. I'm going to send you to driver school.
Oh, dear, yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
When this position came available, Jim, and you sat down and you said, geez, I'd really like to do this, or maybe I should think about this, was there anything that went through your mind that said, how am I going to handle this part of it? Or I want to be sure and be able to take care of that before this, if you're open to answering that question.
I am.
Is there any hesitation in there saying, this would be great, except I got to take care of something else here? Or any hesitation whatsoever?
So I was initially just surprised by the decision. I mean, I think, I don't know Tony that well. I think he was just kind of getting a little bit tired of it. That's all I'm going to say. I don't think there's, I was concerned that it was his health. I called him up, and he goes, no, it's business. We're really busy, but I can't talk right now. I'm on the golf course. I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that then. I'm fine with that answer. I feel good about it. I ran when Tony ran 10 years ago. And at the and I already known him 20 years, and I knew his dad real well, and I understand, that, but I knew them both pretty well. And we saw each other, and I think maybe he said it first, but we were almost at the same time. This is going to be like a fair, fun, open race, right? Yeah, absolutely. And it was. It really was. He ran an excellent campaign. When he won the next day, I called him. I brought flowers to his wife, and it's a good relationship. But it was something that was on my mind 10 years ago. I lost by 27 votes, so I ran a hard campaign. I'm going to say I was relatively unknown outside of like my church and my kid's school. So I had put a lot of thought into it back then. I've put a lot of thought into it, not to the point that I ever thought, I never thought I'd run against like Jeff Markello. Never thought I'd run against Tony. I just figured we're all kind of around the same age. My ship has sailed. But I've thought about it in other contexts. When this came up, I didn't really have a hesitation, but I knew that there was a lot of things that I had to clear out of the way. My relationship here with the town, my relationship with the party, the relationship I have, at court, things along those lines. None of them has really kind of gotten in the way where it's I feel it's impossible to me, or it's never been I have to weigh this versus this. I think, and I hope I become the judge. I think you'll find me maybe a better judge than I was a town board member. I think I feel like I'm suited for it. I feel it's something I've wanted to do. I feel comfortable doing that. So yeah, I think there are some obstacles, but I've been addressing them as they come along,
Thank you.
you know.
I'm good.
Joe, you good? One last question. If you were appointed, Jim, would you be okay with starting that position June 1st?
So it's going to go back.
Days away.
That's going to go back, yeah, I wish I had a better answer that I don't know. Here's the one of the problems that I came across, that I'm trying to deal with, that I haven't gotten a written response, and I should actually, believe it or not, I called again today, I should have an answer by tomorrow or Friday. The question is, I'm up for reelection for the town board. A judge who wants to run for political office has to resign before they start their campaign, or as they start their campaign. So where does that put me? If I'm an interim judge, and I'm also on the ballot right now for town board, the way, I think I'm okay with it because judges have what they call a window period. So I'm interested in, I'm the judge, I'm in, and it's my turn to run again, or there's a vacancy like now, and I can run again. There's a window that allows you to engage in certain political activity under the law. That has been the real big stumbling point that I wanted to get an opinion from, from Albany on that.
And we don't know for sure when that'll come.
Right. So to be 100% sure, I could start in July. Absolutely, that's not a problem, because I could start anytime after the primary. Even though there's not a primary, I could start anytime after that. Can I start before? My opinion is yes, I can, but I haven't got their opinion yet. Yeah,
I understand.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
That's all I have.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
all right, thanks so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Mr.
it.
Grandville.
Thank you very much. Take care, Jim.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.